All right, good morning, good morning. If you remember in the last video, we picked up this LTZ400 for 550 bucks. I think today we're gonna rip her apart and see if we can get her running. Hopefully it's not just a pile of parts. I think only time will tell, but we're gonna start with the basics. We're gonna start with spark, fuel, and compression, and we'll go from there. Wish me luck. All right, I think we're gonna check the compression on this first. Let's go ahead and get these plastics off. Looks like we got a couple zip ties here. And some right here. Okay, the LTZs aren't too bad. It's really just the two side panels, and if you can get the front just even slightly forward, you can get the tank off. Or my left hand. My much better right hand. Ta-da! Oh, this little tab right there. There we go. Okay, gas tank lid. This guy. And then usually it's 2 bolts. Once again, we have more zip ties, so that's cool. Now, if you buy those eBay bolt kits, they will have the bolts that go to these. You can just throw like a nice flat washer on there, and then you're good to go. So let's look down here real quick. I can't remember if the fuel's okay. It is hooked up and set to on. We will test this once we get it off. Let's go ahead and remove this. There's definitely fuel in there, so that's good. I'm gonna need a tool. Nope. Sucker's on there. Like, it's so stiff, it just doesn't even want to move. Alright, now this should come out. But ideally, we would take the front plastics off. I might be able to do it. Yeah, we're good. Ah, sucker's crusty. At least it's not leaking. Alright, so now, go ahead and get this spark plug out. I like to run just an extension on there. Pop it loose, I was barely on there. And then I just use this and finger twist it off for the rest of it. That's that. There it goes. And then I just use a magnet to pull the spark plug out. That's what I like to do. Oh, that's a good sign. Nice and corrody. CR7E. It looks like this. Not bad, but this is where it's kind of ugly. Alright, let's go ahead and check compression. Get down there nice and snug. Alright, let's take our jump starter and hook her up. Because I know the starter will work as long as you jump the solenoid. green light. We need her to be wide open. We'll do a quick zip tie mod. Only the finest. There we go. Yes! That's what I'm talking about. Straight up. Over 150. Looks like it's over 160. I'm starting to think this guy wasn't lying to me that it was running. I don't know. Let's see if she's got spark. Test that here in a second. It's not an OEM coil, but she still might have spark. Let's give it a shot. All right. Let's see if she has spark. All right, I didn't see anything, so we're gonna try this brand new spark plug real quick. See if it's the spark plug or not. Okay, so I'm thinking because this is so painted that the spark plug might not be getting good contact. So I'm going to use this little spark plug tester, you know, one that tests how strong your spark is, to see how good it is. Basically, you just plug this into your spark plug cap, and then you hook this up to your ground like that. And then if it has good spark, you'll know real quick. So let's do that real fast. That, and then hook this up to your negative in whatever way you can. I need 2 teeth on this negative cable. It's kind of tricky. Okay, probably shouldn't be on metal. Maybe try it like that. Let me zoom up. Right there. You should be able to see the spark if it's sparking. So let's jump it again. See if we got spark this time. Alright. There's nothing. Alright, so we have absolutely no spark. We're going to go through process of elimination. The coil wire is hooked up here. And should be fine. I think we're going to start by removing this Chinese coil and put on an OEM one. I'll have to go steal one from the yellow LTZ out back. Be right back. Alright, I had one on the bench left. One of the OEM coils that says made in Japan. And I kicked the camera. Cool. And we're just going to swap these out. Just is it a 10 millimeter? Not too bad. Out with the old. In with the new. Tighten her up. And then the only thing left is your coil wire, or your ignition wire, whatever you call it, the wire that sends the power to your coil, tells it to go. Now let's hook up our tester again and see what happens this time. Alright, so we swapped out the coil. We made sure that the coil wire was hooked up, and unfortunately still not seeing any spark. I think the next thing to do is we'll check the grounds on the coil real quick, make sure that's grounding well. That won't take long. Okay, so the important grounds to check are engine to ground, so anywhere on the head here, that beeps, and then the coil grounds, make sure the coil's grounded well, which is check. And that was beeping a second ago. Yeah, it's got good ground on both sides here. So we know we got ground here and ground from the engine to the battery. So grounding's not an issue. If grounding's not an issue, we can check the CDI next. Go ahead and do that. Alright, so your CDI is down here, and I'm looking at it, and there's no Mitsubishi stamp. I don't think there's any stamp at all on here, which means we have a Chinese, most likely, CDI. I'm going to get this completely off. This is not your stock bolt, but let me get that off real quick and see what we got. Alright, I got her off, and from what I can tell, after cleaning her up, it's got to be a Chinese CDI, so let's go ahead and put on an OEM. See if she fires up. Alright, here's the OEM Mikuni off a confirmed running bike. Go ahead and hook that up real quick. Alright, still got nothing. Okay. I didn't think about it, but the old key switch here was just going to a bunch of loose wires. I don't know. Can't really see it. It's everything on the end here. So just cut, spliced in, going to this little switch. But I didn't even think about it. The light wasn't coming on. And at least the light does work when the ignition switch goes on. So I hooked up an OEM switch. And then I still couldn't get it to start with that one. So I hooked up a working switch from another bike. And now, yeah, I also hooked up a battery because I got tired of jumping it. But the question is, do we have spark? And I haven't looked yet, but let's find out. I don't see anything. So we still got to figure that out. We're one step closer. Now that ignition's actually on, should allow it to go. So I'm still going to be chasing wires. I had to bypass the little, what's this, the clutch. I can't remember. I think it's the clutch sensor to see if your clutch is pulled in, which usually I just wire tie these. But for now, this is good enough to get her to start. So let's keep figuring out why we don't spark. We'll figure it out. All right, so I've checked pretty much everything. We have ignition. We have power to the CDI. Everything looks good. I think at this point it's going to be the Stator. I need to do an ohms test on that. So let's do that real quick and see if that looks bad, because my best bet is it's our Stator. So yeah. All right, let's go ahead and take this off. It's got a Chinese Stator on it, you can tell. Dang, that's on there. There we go. Try not to break the gasket while we take it off. They can be a bit sensitive. So the good news is I have an OEM stator here, and I have a fresh gasket. So luckily, we should be able to pull this right off and be good to go. Take all these bolts off. They just filled this hole with gasket maker. There's no bolt there. I wonder if it's a broken head or not. Honestly, it wouldn't really surprise me. But I guess only time will tell. And there's no bolt here either. Really interesting. That's quite a few bolts to be missing. 1, 2, there's one more in here. The reason I know it's a Chinese stator is because these plugs. These are really cheap, white, fragile. And then if you look at the plugs of an OEM one, they are much nicer. They match the plugs, the female side of the plugs on the other side. Might have to take the starter off first. I think in the past it's been much easier if I remove the starter first. They have an aftermarket tensioner on there, timing chain tensioner, and man, it made it much harder to get your hand in there. There's like almost no room. Come on. Why won't you move? She's in there. There's no reason that shouldn't be coming out. Other than it just wants to be a pain in the butt. Wonder if I can just pull this out, and then it'll make it much easier. That's that gasket. It really was. Gasket just making it much harder than it really needed to be. There. Okay. Got that off now. Oh. Forgot there's one in there. This tricky guy will get you. Alright. Now will she move? There we go. There's the stator. It did have a gasket on there. For some reason they felt like they had to put a pound of the silicone sealer on there. Alright, let me show you what I'm working with. So, this is all jacked up. That stuff's pretty deep in there, but you can tell it's all scarred up. Over here, same thing. Just the head is just completely stuck in there. Also, I noticed that at some point, these bolts had backed out, or the stator completely fell apart, the one that was in this before. Completely damaged this flywheel. I mean, look how bad that is. Utterly destroyed. I think I might put a new flywheel in here. I don't know. For $550, I don't want to put any actual money in this yet, but man, that's bad. That's really bad.
So I mean it goes all the way around, so it was just completely shredding itself inside of there. Yeah, I decided I'm gonna take this flywheel off. Got our puller here. Oh, there's no compression building because I don't have a spark plug in, but I don't think it'll be a problem. Alright, this is reverse thread. That came off very easy. Almost too easy. Like that. You can see how badly chunked out this thing is, and I have a spare just laying around, so yeah, it's pretty clobbered up inside there. Holy crap, that's pretty bad. You can keep this one-way bearing though. Alright, so this is the flywheel I had laying around. It's a little dirty, but seems fine. Let's clean her up real quick. Alright, so these bolts that hold on the one-way bearings to your flywheel are freaking red Loctited on there, and they're, well, it's supposed to be pretty hard to get out. That was not bad. I see a tiny bit of red, but it doesn't look like there was much Loctite on that one. They're not torqued down crazy hard, but I feel like these are coming out pretty easy for, yeah. It's a good thing we pulled this out, man. These, I barely even pulled on that thing and it came right out, so that's a bad sign that, those are gonna strip pretty soon, and what happens is once those strip, the flywheel starts jerking, and then a lot of times it'll damage your stator when it's jerking around, and then you got to replace both your flywheel if it's too badly damaged and your stator, which OEM stators, yeah, I didn't even have to try on that. That's pretty bad. Alright, we got the 6 one-way bearing bolts out. Now we have a good reusable one-way bearing, which is kind of nice. Nice and greasy, but... And we'll probably just ditch this flywheel because it is pretty badly damaged in there. So let's go ahead and put all these 6 bolts onto the other one. Alright, so everything I'm reading online looks like it depends on how strong your bolt is for how hard you torque them down. Mine does not have the stronger 10, I think it's 10.9, or it's supposed to have a stamp on it that lets you know how strong they are, and these do not have that stamp. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the lesser torque spec with some red Loctite on it. So I'm just doing this dab of red, which is quite a bit of red, but this is the weaker red Loctite. It's not like Permatex. It's kind of like in between blue and red. Try it, see if I can do it now. There it is. Alright. Okay. Now they're all torqued down to 100 foot-pounds. I'm going to tap them all one more, and then we can throw her on. and that one had a little wiggle to it, so good thing I double checked. Alright, our flywheel is on there. She should be good to go. Let's throw her on. The nice thing about taking the flywheel off is I was able to actually get up in here and actually clean all the gasket maker off, which is a nice plus. I got her pretty clean there. I just got to clean this side real quick, and then we should be good to go. Okay, I got the OEM stator moved over to this cover here. Now that everything's clean, we can slide on our handy dandy gasket. Like that. Alright. Next up, drop the flywheel on there. Just like that. Still need to put in our little shaft here. Make sure he's nice and clean. And this little guy is next. Just like that. Now you can see it only spins one way. Alright, now we need our flywheel nut. Crank her down. I feel like there's supposed to be a washer there, but maybe not. Alright, this one has to be torqued down quite a bit. So, I'm going to figure out how I'm going to torque this one down. Alright, everything I'm seeing online says that the flywheel nut is going to be 87 foot-pounds, or you can just hit it with an impact. Alright, good enough for testing purposes. Go. Alright, don't crank these down too tight, because, well, you see what happens. The heads pop off of them if you're too dumb. Like whoever snapped these off. Can happen to the best of us, though. Alright, now we just gotta hope that it doesn't leak. Okay. Get our starter back in there. Alright, we got our starter back in there. We got our starting gears, the last one to go. I believe that is correct. Alright. So if I remember correctly, there was just one bolt in this, holding this whole thing on. Good enough for testing. Hook up our stator wires. Back here. One. Two. Alright, we got the new OEM stator in there. We're going to test our spark right here, see if she jumps across now. Please work. That's what you want to see. I don't know if you could see that, but it was jumping this entire half-inch there. So we finally have spark. Thank you. All right. Now we're close. I'm going to go ahead and tighten down the spark plug. Nice and snug. Drop plug down in there. That's a brand new spark plug. Alright, I cannot run this engine, and I'll show you why. So, I mean, obviously, I lost a lot of oil when I was in the side of the case here on the ground. So I need to top off the oil. Also, if you go over here, so on the oil box here, this hose, I don't know if you can tell, but this is not an OEM hose. This thing is, it's some weird, almost garden hose-like material. I don't know what it is, but it does not fit correctly on this oil case, or the overflow box, or it's your kind of extra oil box that's on the top here to release the excess into the back into the air box. But yeah, so I gotta fix that. I have a spare hose. It shouldn't be an issue. We gotta get all the hoses hooked back up there, top it off with oil. And I noticed this while I was working on it, but this is an aftermarket cam chain tensioner. It's always a red flag when they have aftermarkets, because a lot of times the chains will be completely worn out, but they will push them the extra mile with these spare, cheap tensioners, and then they're pushed well beyond their max, and they end up breaking, and that's what causes you to drop a valve or hit your valve with your pistons. It can cause so many issues. So hopefully it doesn't sound terrible when we start it because of that. So far turning over, it doesn't sound bad. So we're going to give her a go, put some oil in, and hook up this box and anything else I can think of, and then we'll give it a shot. So I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so I got the oil box hooked up. I realized why they use this special hose here, and I think either this isn't OEM or the plug for the hose hookup isn't, because that's aiming like straight up like through here, and so it's got to have a sharper bend here, and the OEM hose just bends too much and kinks, and so this one lets a little better airflow. It's not that big of a deal because this is just kind of an air bypass through your oil system, like through this air box, so I'm not really worried about it. So I figured out his whole jumping the bike thing with this wire. I got the original wiring hooked up, and when you can tell, when you press this wire to this one, it does in fact turn over. So I figured out his whole crazy scheme here that he said it would do. I just had to get the battery hooked up and actually hook up a real ignition, and now it does work. I haven't plugged in the coil yet. It sounds a little rough already just turning her over, so I'm a little doubtful that this is even going to run, and if it does, I might have to turn it off quick. But I'm going to go ahead and hook this up, and we'll I need to get some gas hooked back up, so let me hook the tank on here, and then we'll try and give it a run. Will she run? I don't know. Let's find out. Alright, got the gas tank hooked up. Put it on. It is flowing gas. It's leaking gas. Right there. You can get a different hose. Alright. Moment of truth. We got fuel hooked up. It is flowing to the carburetor. I know it gets gas in there because when I was turning it over earlier to test some things, it was throwing gas out because I left the throttle wide open because I had that zip tie on there. So it should have fuel to the carb. It has spark. We know it has compression. This thing should run. whether it's trash or not. We're about to find out. Here we go. Oh yeah, I gotta jump this wire. No way. It almost ran for a second. Let me give it a little choke. Sorry, I had a child Amber alert. But yeah, so I'm gonna try this again. I'll listen to it a little better. And now that I have access to the ignition, it won't be as crazy. But yeah, it didn't sound good though. Interesting. She actually runs. It's got some noise up here. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's not a hard knock, but it's just a lot of chatter. So I think it's going to be worth getting in here. I cannot believe it. She friggin' ran. Holy crap, even with this thing on here, I imagine if she warmed up, it would have ran without choke. It had a little bit of a low idle, but it definitely does run. That's crazy. I think it took me forever to get this whole debacle done and wire chasing and everything. So I think we're going to call that a success for today. I don't have enough time in the day to actually see if we can drive this thing. But I think in the next video, I'm going to try that. But can you believe it? $550. Let's see. It needed an ignition. I don't know how much those are. I just robbed one. I don't know if it needed a CDI. I'm going to go ahead and throw back the CDI that was on it. Well, no, that one was Amazon. I think I'm just going to stick with that. I don't want to hurt nothing else. So definitely need a starting switch. We need an ignition. And let's see. I don't know. I think it's going to run like this, which is kind of making me laugh. So, but she does run. Can't believe it. You heard it yourself. Let me know what you think. How bad are the valves up here? Is it just valve chatter? I'll try and get one more running video for you, like right here, and listen. And tell me what you think. Blowing smoke. A lot of smoke. All right, so definitely has a lot of chatter up here. It's also blowing a bit of smoke, so it definitely is at least going to need rings. Well, I think in the next video we'll tear this apart. I'm going to go ahead and order rings. And I don't know if it's a risk ordering rings for this thing or not. But wouldn't it be crazy if this just needs rings and a valve adjustment and this thing actually drives? I don't know, man. It might actually happen. We'll find out in the next one. So yeah, I can't believe it, but she might actually rip here in the next video. Hey, man, if you made it this far in the video, I appreciate it so much. You sticking around and watching my videos, it means a lot. And if you want to leave a like or subscribe, that might just help me out a little bit. But either way, appreciate it. Catch you in the next one. Peace.